I'm very pleased to welcome Anne from My Kitchen Heals. Give her a warm welcome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out on a cold night, though it's lovely and warm and toasty in here. My passion is to teach people about the healing food that actually is found in our kitchen, in our pantries, in our fridges. I believe passionately that a lot of our diseases are caused by the food that we put into our body. Combine that with the hectic lifestyles that a lot of us lead, and it's just a time bomb for disease. So I'd just like to take you through my own journey and explain to you how I've used food to heal myself from major illnesses. A lot of you can probably relate to this particular slide. You've probably seen it on Facebook. I've seen it quite a few times. I certainly know this was me a number of years ago. Right throughout my 20s and 30s, I would go to my doctor when I got ill and he would write me a script, and for a while I'd feel better, and then there'd be a twinge somewhere else and I'd go back to the doctor and he'd write another script for something else. And the reality is every medication I was taking caused a side effect elsewhere. So to get well, I had to be sick in another part of my body. For example, I had really bad arthritis. I was diagnosed with arthritis in my early 20s. What I didn't know is I actually had a number of different arthritises going on in my body, but I just thought arthritis was arthritis. I still have some arthritis today, caused by whiplash injuries, but I treat that through regular chiropractic care here. But the other type of arthritis that was actually causing me the biggest concern was arthritis that was actually caused by the food I was eating. But I didn't know that. My doctor never asked me. But he prescribed anti-inflammatories and they worked. You know, I was able to have some comfort. But the reality is the anti-inflammatories triggered my asthma. So it was, which devil do I live with? So I had to take more asthma medication, more Ventolin, and it just became a vicious, vicious cycle. One drug helped, caused another drug, and eventually the anti-inflammatory stopped working completely and I had to take massive doses of prescription strength painkillers. My typical day, 10 years ago, I was taking 10 to 12 Mesindal prescription tablets a day just to function. It was the only way I could get through the day. I was a single mum, working full time, and I had to do it. The reality is, I don't think drugs are the answer. Drugs are they're a vicious cycle, and they're basically going to cause disease. So what I'd like to talk to you today about is ditching that conventional approach to health and looking at how food can be used to heal our bodies from the inside out, rather than taking drugs. A lot of us have health insurance. Health insurance is great, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have health insurance, but I think this is the best health insurance. Eating whole foods is a preventative health insurance. Getting back to the basics, eating clean foods in their natural form. It's the way we were meant to live. It's the way our ancestors lived. But today we're eating a lot of packaged food, a lot of processed food, a lot of convenient food. If we think back to the way our grandparents lived, I know I'm Maltese, and the kitchen was the centre of our family. My nana would sit there at the table and make the most amazing meals. You know, there was always a beautiful smell in the kitchen, you know, beautiful soups, slow-cooked meats. I just loved that kitchen. It was the hub of the family. But we don't live like that anymore. We're all eating at different times. I know as a teacher, I speak to students and they're eating on the go. You know, they've got football practice, they've got dance practice, they've got homework, and families don't sit together anymore. I think as a society, we've kind of gone backwards. You know, if we look at the way we supposedly have evolved, I don't know if we actually have evolved. I think something's gone wrong. Our ancestors used to go out and hunt their food, kill their food, skin it, slice it up, try and preserve it if they could, cook it, grow their berries, dig the roots. Everything was done by the human hand. Exercise was built into the way that we lived. It was very functional. We don't do enough functional exercise today. You know, we live very busy lifestyles. A lot of us live work lives that are built around a computer or a desk. I look at children. I know the children I teach spend all day in the classroom. I teach in a one-to-one technology school, so kids are actually on technology devices, iPads or MacBooks, from the time they're in preschool. And then they go home and they sit on another device. You know, you go to shopping centres, kids have always got a device in their hand, they're always hunched over. And I think we really need to be building a lot more functional exercise into our body. We need to get rid of that convenient food and that convenient lifestyle. So what I want to talk to you today is about building in healthy habits, not about restrictions. Because if any of you have ever been on a diet or set yourself a goal and say, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to quit smoking, the harder you try to do something, the more you say you're not going to do it, you set yourself up for failure. So I believe that we need to swap those bad habits out and replace them with good habits and come from an intention of I will, I am. And if we can think positive and act on these things, we're more likely to achieve them. It's certainly been my experience. You're probably wondering what I mean by this. Are you a sad eater? A lot of us eat the standard Australian or a standard American diet. Now, if you were to look at diets around the world, a lot of our food is processed. We eat a lot of processed packaged food, a lot of microwave food, a lot of food that we can stick in the oven and heat up. I mean, you go to Coles, Woolies today, even in the fresh food aisle, food is pre-packaged. You know, they cut your pumpkin up for you. My God, they even slice apples these days and put them in a little packet. I don't understand that. That's convenience gone mad. The reality is that a standard diet that we're eating, particularly when we rely so much on packaged food, and at the other extreme we're eating a lot of animal protein, it suppresses our immune system. And that suppressed immune system is what is setting our bodies up for failure. It's what's setting our bodies up to actually get sick inside. So when we look at that, the reality, a lot of our children today don't know what real food is. I feel sad that a lot of children will grow up not knowing the experiences I had as a child growing up, smelling my nana's cooking, seeing the family gather and laugh and celebrate life around food. A lot of our food today is not food, it's food-like. It tastes like food, it might look like food, but is it really food? I think a lot of food is kind of like food porn. It's addictive. The food manufacturers are smart. They know that we like certain tastes in our mouth. We like that creamy, smooth taste that we get from chocolates and mousses and cream cheeses. We like salty, we like fatty tastes. So they give it to us. And it's so addictive, and we go back for more. And the manufacturers are lucky. They're happy because they keep bringing in the cash. The reality is the sugar, particularly the sugar in our diets and the additives, are causing inflammation. A lot of you would have an idea of what inflammation is. If you think of, for example, I was to cut my arm, I might notice the area around the cut is getting red. It might be sore. That's actually a good thing because my body is saying, hey, you've injured yourself, rest your arm. So I use my other arm. I protect my arm. So that type of inflammation is actually your body's natural response to say, hey, take it easy. But there's actually a lot of silent inflammation going on inside that we don't know about until it's too late, until we have that stroke, or until we have that heart attack, or until that aneurysm bursts in our brain. So I want to talk to you today about what inflammation is actually doing to us and how we can prevent it. A lot of you have probably heard of oxidization. If I was to cut up an apple or an avocado or a banana, what's going to happen? Brown.
Yeah.
That's oxidization. That happens to our bodies as well. Our bodies are amazing. They take in so much oxygen, but our bodies have to work really hard for that oxygen to work. So it's constantly fighting and working and pulling from all sources. And it sets off a molecular structure inside that causes oxidisation. And oxidisation is not a good thing. It means something has gone wrong. You know, I mean, a brown banana is not appealing. My son this morning went to put some avocado on his toast, and it was brown, he didn't want to eat it. Visually, it wasn't appealing. Oxidation in our body causes all these things. It suppresses our immune system, causes heart disease, it causes diabetes and obesity. Diabetes and obesity are two of the biggest Western disease problems that we have today, and a lot of it is caused by diet, predominantly by diet. If you're not worried about the health risks, then from a vanity point of view, it causes premature ageing. It wrinkles our skin, it greys our hair, it causes our skin to lose elasticity. So if you don't care about what's going on inside your body, most of us care about how we look. So do it from, because of your vanity. Oxidisation is what's causing that inflammation, and it's like a ticking time bomb. You need to get on top of it before it's too late. And sadly, a lot of our doctors, they don't have the education in relation to food. My own doctor has told me that in the 7 years he was at medical school, he did 6 hours on nutrition in 7 years. And I love my doctor, he's a great guy. He's been my family doctor for years, but he certainly, every time I went along to him, he wrote me a script. Never ever asked me what was actually going on in my life, what I was doing, how I was living. It was just an automatic, and I went out and I filled that script. I didn't know any better. Oxidation is no good for us. The reality is food does cause inflammation more than anything. Followed by stress and lifestyle, a lack of exercise. It's just a time bomb waiting to go off. Basically what happens, it triggers inflammatory molecules in our body. And those inflammatory molecules develop antibodies to try and fight them, which causes all these free radicals, and they're just swimming around in our body. And it slowly develops. And what ends up happening, unless we replace those inflammatory foods with anti-inflammatory foods, like greens, that inflammation keeps developing. And eventually, as we get older, we start to notice aches and pains, but we put it down to wear and tear, age. It's natural. You know, my grandfather had this, or mum had this, so I'm just following in their footsteps. I put on a bit of weight, it's natural. You know, menopause, all of that. So there's always a reason for it, but we don't ever stop to think, well, is it natural to have less vitality just because we're getting older? I don't think so. If we look at what actually is happening in our bodies, inflammation actually causes a lot of these diseases, more than anything else. You can read through that list. I just want to talk about my own experience with some of these diseases. I mentioned my arthritis. I no longer take any anti-inflammatories. My hand, 5 years ago, this hand was completely curled in. I was actually really embarrassed, and I would often walk with my hand behind my back. I would, try and hide it, because it wasn't attractive. My knee constantly ached, constantly. Constant lower back pain. I often had to wear support braces on my arms. I'd broken both my wrists when I was younger. I'd broken this arm twice. I was a really clumsy kid. My mother used to call me Sunny Queen Eggs. I would just break. So I just thought it was all natural. But I don't take those anti-inflammatory drugs anymore. I don't have asthma anymore. And I was taking Ventolin, I was taking puffers, but it was about cleaning my diet. For me, I found my trigger was dairy. So once I stopped taking dairy, my asthma cleared up. I was diagnosed with osteoporosis when I was 32. It's pretty young. Now we think of osteoporosis as an old person's disease. I grew up knowing about osteoporosis because it ran rampant in my mother's side of the family. All my relatives, particularly my female relatives, my grandmother, God bless her, by the time she was 40, she had that stooped back. The time she passed away, I never saw her face. She was always looking at the ground. So I was brought up knowing about osteoporosis, and my mother really drilled into me the importance of having milk and eating my cheese and eating my yogurt. I used to drink 3 to 4 glasses of milk a day. I love milk. But I still got osteoporosis. Now, I don't have dairy anymore, but I know my bones today are denser and stronger than they used to be. And I know that's a fact, because the reason I do continue to go to my doctor is being a teacher, wanting the facts behind it. My background is I'm a business economics teacher, so I like to see the facts. I use my own body as a test case. So I have had a bone density test recently, about 9-10 months ago, and my bones have actually mended. They're getting stronger, yet I don't have dairy. And I've done that through diet. What works for me may work for you. We're all different, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. The reality, if we were to look at something like the humble broccoli, it contains 1,000 micronutrients. You're not going to get that in a packet. You're not going to get that in a capsule. And that's what a lot of us are doing. We know that we're not eating well, so we go and we buy a bottle of multivitamins. Why not get those vitamins in our food? It makes so much more sense. When John asked me to come along and talk tonight, I thought I really wanted to actually do a little bit of background research. I don't shop at the supermarket a lot anymore. When I do shop at the supermarket, I go around the outside perimeters. I tend to shop across the road a lot at Mrs. Flannery's. There's a wonderful farm down about 15 minutes from here, Muriel's farm. Get my fresh produce, or I go to the farmers markets. So I thought, you go to the supermarket to see what's going on. How many of you put food mindlessly into your trolley without actually thinking about what you're buying? Thank you for your honesty. You reach, I know I used to be that person. You reach for a brand because that's the brand you've always bought. Or you reach for something because it's a 2-for-1 sale or a 20% discount. Or the attractive coloured packaging. We're so persuaded by that. I want to actually take you inside a few foods, and I purposely chose foods that are marketed as healthy. I didn't go out looking for foods that I knew to be junk food. I looked for foods that are marketed as healthy and thought they would be healthy. The reality is, when I looked at what was available in our supermarket, there's a lot of nutrient-poor food. It's not real food. It's cheap. It's convenient. I know I walked past a sign about 3 weeks ago down the Gold Coast. I walked past McDonald's and they had a $5 food feast. And you could get a burger, a drink, an apple pie and chips for $5. And I peered through the window trying to see their menu bar, and there was a green salad there for $7.95. What's the average family going to do trying to feed kids? Absolutely. It's cheap, it's filling, kids are happy. But they're not getting quality food. The reality, a lot of that food is addictive. I'm sure there's people in this room, I was one of them. Go to the movies, buy popcorn with the intention of just eating a little bit of it. I see a few guilty faces. And you put your hand in and it's finished. I know when I used to be stressed, I used to reach for 2 things. Strong cheese and a glass of red wine. And sometimes chocolate. Okay? That was my stress reliever. The thing is, when I was stressed and I would crave those things, it would just set off more cravings. And sometimes I used to go to bed and I'd be thinking, oh, I just want another piece of cheese. And I'd get up and I'd sneak to the fridge and I'd cut another piece of cheese and hope that the kids didn't wake up and ask me what I was doing in the fridge at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I understand that. But these cravings are actually triggered by the food we're putting in. It's not psychological, it's actually physical. That's why a smoker finds it difficult to give up cigarettes. It's a physical thing, not just a psychological thing. So as I said, I went and had a look at food. And I know one of the number one foods in the Australian diet is breakfast cereal. Okay, it's quick and easy. Yogurts. I looked at Go-Gurt. Go-Gurt is marketed as a nice, healthy yogurt. It's convenient, it comes in a little tube, stick it in your kid's lunchbox or your lunchbox. The kids, you know, just have to suck on it. They're getting that good bacteria into their gut. They're getting the calcium. Certainly better than putting in a packet of potato chips or biscuits into their lunchbox. I certainly see kids eating it all the time at my school. So I was interested to actually have a look at it. So I bought one and I brought it home. You can see what I've highlighted there. Contains that wonderful number 11 carrageenan. You may not see the word carrageenan. If you see number 11, don't buy it. Carrageenan has actually been established to cause intestinal tumours. Yet it's the ingredient that manufacturers love because it's such an easy way to get that creamy sensation that we all love. It's in ice cream, it's in mousses, it's in chocolates, it's even in some of the processed meats in the deli section. Sadly, and frighteningly, it's in a lot of baby formulas. It's really scary. And it's increasingly added into our foods, and we don't question it. You know, when I went to school, I was taught numbers were for counting, not for eating. And yet we're eating so many numbers and we don't question it. We're eating foods that we don't even know how to pronounce the ingredients on the labels. As I said to you, I had a look at healthy products. I was actually very surprised by this product because when I looked at the nutritional guide on the right-hand side there, okay, it's low fat. Aren't we all taught low fat is good? But you can almost guarantee low-fat foods, to make them taste good, they've got to put something else in them. So they're usually packed with either sugar or artificial sweeteners. Neither of them are good for us. I was actually surprised when I actually looked at the sugar content of this food. It actually had more sugar than Coca-Cola. Now, I'm not saying Coca-Cola is a better choice, but I'm actually questioning, is this a healthy food? I don't think so. But boy, that advertising sucks us in. And we buy it. And we really think we're doing the right thing by our kids. And that's the sad thing. None of us are intentionally feeding our families or feeding ourselves bad food. We all try to do the right things, but manufacturers are so clever at sucking us in. My next stop was the cereal aisle. And again, I didn't go for the obviously unhealthy cereals. I didn't go for the Fruit Loops, the Cocoa Pops. I looked for the cereals that are marketed as healthy. And this one caught my eye. Smart Start. It says on the packet, Strong Heart. In the top right-hand corner there, it talks about all the different daily recommended vitamins and minerals it gives us, the iron levels, the shape of the bowl, the colouring, the red. It's all suggesting vitality and health. I don't know if anyone here has ever, I haven't tried this cereal, I don't know what it tastes like, but it certainly looks good. And I know if I was buying cereal, I'd buy that over Fruit Loops. It certainly appears to be good. But look at the ingredients in fine print on the back of the box. I was amazed how much sugar's in this product. Not just once, but 4 times. High fructose corn syrup. That there is so frightening by itself. A, it's genetically modified. But high fructose corn syrup, the fructose molecules are absorbed by our bodies so quickly, and I believe it to be the number one reason diabetes is on the increase. Diabetes is no longer an older person's disease. I have children at school who are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in primary school. We need to wake up, guys. We really need to be looking at what we're eating. TBHQ. I didn't know what it was. I had a look. It's added to foods to stop it going off. The thing is, once we open up a packet, the air gets to it, it oxidises, just like that apple and that banana. So we want to keep our food fresh because manufacturers want us to keep buying their product. The same with the BHT. It stops food going rancid. It's a preservative. It's used in the funeral industry to embalm bodies. It works so well. It's also stated by the National Toxicology Board as being the #1 human carcinogen. So in other words, it causes cancer. It's in our cereals. It's in almost all packaged food. I actually had a look, and almost every packaged food I picked up either had both those ingredients or at least one of them, because it is a preservative. It's also found in petroleum. It's found in the aviation industry. I mean, do you really want to be eating those sort of chemicals? I don't know. I don't want to. And then the wonderful yellow #5, and we wonder why our children are having attention problems and swinging off trees. And it's what gives cereal and other foods that lovely golden colour. It comes from coal tar. Coal tar is a carcinogenic. You wouldn't eat it if you knew it was coal tar. That's why they don't write coal tar. They just write #5. I had a look at one more cereal. I won't go into this one in too much depth. That speaks for itself. Good old Kellogg's, they really get us in every time. It's our #1 favourite breakfast cereal in Australia is Kellogg's. We support it really well. Nothing good in that. I mean, granola has such a healthy name. I grew up believing granola was a good choice. I certainly bought granola for my kids before I knew better. All sugar, corn fructose, and of course, as you can see there, it also contains pesticides. Because it contains so much genetically modified corn, it's got to get into our food. The reality is, guys, it's as I said at the beginning, it's not about creating a lifestyle of restriction. It's about trying to do well most of the time. It's about trying to swap those bad things out and replacing them with good choices. Now, I know you're all adults. No one wants to eat food that tastes bland. I heard you speaking about raw desserts before. They're beautiful, they're delicious.
They are.
They are absolutely wonderful. Once you've tasted a raw cheesecake, you won't go back to the old cheesecake. They're disgusting. And a raw cheesecake is filled with nutrients. Dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free. I sometimes have raw cheesecake for breakfast. And I don't feel guilty because I know I'm giving my body a good start today. It's full of protein. And I put a lot of superfoods into my foods when I'm making them. So if you learn to swap out those bad things, I'm just going to give you some very simple examples that I do. You will actually turn off those triggers in your body that cause those cravings. And in time, and it only takes 21 to 28 days to form a new habit. We can all do it. And once you do it, you won't go back. You know, a lot of people say to me, because my big lifestyle change, I've cut out gluten, I've cut out dairy, and I don't eat sugar. I'm not strict on the sugar. I don't eat it at home, I don't buy it. If I was to go to John's place and he was to offer a food that contains sugar, I wouldn't be rude and not eat it. I am strict on the dairy and the gluten because I know, for me, they're really bad. But I still have chocolate every day, or almost every day. I still have the things I like. So it's about replacing bad foods with good choices. These are just some simple things. We all like cereal. I said before, I couldn't find a healthy one at the supermarket, so I make my own, and it changes all the time depending on what ingredients I have in the kitchen. And guys, you don't have to be strict about, what you're making. I love just getting in my kitchen and playing, just trying different combinations. That cereal there, because I went gluten-free, I tried the gluten-free cereals in the supermarket. If any of you follow a gluten-free diet, you know they taste like cardboard. They're absolutely horrible. Why eat it? It doesn't taste good. Not only does it taste good, it's actually not good for you. If you look at the gluten-free products in the supermarket, even in the health stores, they contain a lot of rice flour, a lot of corn syrup. They're actually just as bad as the real choice. Sometimes they're even worse. So throw in some nuts, chop them up. Dried fruit, I dry my own fruit, but you don't have to have a dehydrator. You can buy some dried fruit. I throw in some seeds, pepitas, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, hemp seeds, goji berries. Just mix it up. I get fresh coconut, I dry it. You don't have to do the fresh coconut. You can buy some coconut flakes at the supermarket. No, probably not at the supermarket, at the health food store. I've noticed the ones at the supermarket contain sulphur. Not a good thing to be putting into your body. You might be able to get some in the macro section at Coles. I haven't checked, or Woolies. I don't have dairy anymore, so I make my own milk. It's actually so easy. I got tired of paying $7, $8 for a litre of almond milk or coconut milk. It's really easy to make. I'll sometimes throw in some coconut yogurt. I know that doesn't look great. Tastes great though. And all it is fresh coconut, coconut water and probiotics. I use the Changing Habits Cindy O'Meara brand, and I know John sells the Changing Habits books here. I really encourage you, if you've never read that book, to read it. It certainly was the book that started me on my changes. I learnt so much from that. That's what led me to study it. I wanted to know more about it. Try to start your day better. A lot of us reach for fruit juice. We get sucked in, no added sugar. My father, just recently, my father was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes when he was 38. Sadly, he didn't change his lifestyle, didn't change a single thing about what he was doing, because the doctors never suggested that he do so. He was prescribed medication, and the medication helped for a while. But Dad continued to eat the stuff he'd always eaten. He's had 2 rounds of kidney surgery in the last 3 months, and he's scheduled for another one in the very near future, in about 3 weeks' time. I know the last lot of surgery he had, I was actually up at the hospital, and they were just doing some tests. He had a blood sugar reading of 19.1. 19.1. Now, none of you know about blood sugar readings, you know that that is really high. That is dangerous. I was horrified. The nurse that took the blood sugar reading, 20 minutes later, brought him in a bottle of orange juice. And when I said to her, "You just took his blood sugar reading, it was 19.1, he can't have that," her response to me was, "There's no added sugar." Now, of course, my dad gets the message, well, this is what the hospitals are serving. So, of course, everything I tell him is wrong because it's been reinforced at the hospital. So Dad still has his fruit juice with his diabetes, which is why he's having his 3rd round of surgery in a few weeks' time. He hasn't changed anything. And sadly, I know my dad's not going to be with me for much longer because he won't change his habits. Get rid of those poppers that we give our kids. Put water in. Green smoothies. I start my day with a smoothie every single day, or a juice. It's not always green. Sometimes I have orange smoothies, carrot juice. Sometimes I have purple smoothies, blueberries and beetroot. It's just about experimenting. You don't need to put a lot of fruit in it. Certainly when you first start off, maybe 30%, 40% fruit, 60% vegetable base, and slowly decrease it. Don't choose high glycemic fruits, choose low glycemic fruits, like pears or green apples. A very good way of masking that green taste as your body adjusts to it is to put some lemon juice in. It actually counteracts that green taste. This takes me 3-4 minutes in the morning to make, okay? And I start my day with that. I drink it slowly as I'm getting ready, and then I take some to work with me, and it just keeps me going. Sometimes I work really long days, and this is what keeps me going all day. I just feel so alive with it. The thing is, when you drink a green juice or you drink any type of, and I personally prefer smoothies because I like to have the extra fibre in my body. It's all a personal choice. Sometimes I have juices, but more often than not I have smoothies. Also because I'm lazy. It's easier to clean after making a smoothie than it is after making a juice. There's no pulp. And because I'm really into raw foods, I use all my pulp in biscuits and crackers and breads and so on. So nothing gets wasted in my house. It's all used in some form. But because I'm juicing and I'm having those smoothies, it's actually getting into my cells within 20 minutes. It's repairing my body at a cellular level very, very quickly. I have better health today than I had 15, 20 years ago. And most of us have worse health as we get older. And certainly that's what I thought my experience would be. As I said, it's about swapping out bad, replacing it with good. Being a wog, I can say that because I am one, I love my pasta. And I must admit, when I went gluten-free, it was my biggest fear. That was the one thing I said, I can't not eat pasta. And I tried the gluten-free pastas and they're absolutely awful. So I just had to teach myself how to make a nice healthy version of it. So I make a lot of raw pastas out of carrots and zucchini and pumpkin. It actually tastes really good. I've got friends, family, even my mother, who initially just turned her nose at it because my mother made the nicest plump ravioli from scratch, makes all her own pasta. But she eats this now, she enjoys it. And that's just a pure superfood. Throw in some sesame seeds, some hemp seeds, tastes delicious, takes 5 minutes to make. If you'd like to get the recipe, it's on my website. As I said, I love chocolate. I eat chocolate regularly. But I make my own chocolate. And when you know how to make chocolate, it's actually very easy. That there was something I made over Easter because I knew people would be popping in and I wasn't going to serve them Easter eggs. I certainly wasn't going to be serving them Cadbury or Nestles, not just because they're bad for you, but their ethics behind the way they produce their chocolates. It's another story, but I can't support companies like that. So I always have chocolate on hand. I always have chocolate in my freezer, some form or another, because I love it. That there is just made, the chocolate itself is just made from coconut oil and cacao. If you want it a bit sweeter, you can throw in a date. You can throw in a little bit of coconut. I notice they've got coconut sugar at the front there. That's my number one sweetener, coconut sugar or coconut nectar. It's low GI. It's actually okay for diabetics. The middle part of that is just fresh coconut. And then that lovely caramel topping, it's like a Twix bar. It was actually exactly like a Twix bar, but it tastes better. It's just dates done in the food processor. No one thinks that they're actually eating healthy food, but that is healthy food. Cacao is a superfood. It's packed with antioxidants. So you can eat your chocolate. You know the old saying, you can eat it and have your cake too. You actually can with this because it's all good for you. Things I often have on hand, I love brownies. It was my number one go-to weakness. So I had to learn how to make a brownie without the crap. And that's just 4 layers of absolute delicious superfoods. It's a raw brownie, quick and easy to make, and I often have a stack of those in the freezer. So when I'm feeling like something, I can have it. And I don't deprive myself. I make biscuits for my kids. Okay, that's made from activated buckwheat, some seeds, some flax seeds, and I don't mind how many they eat because it's not doing any damage to their body. So as I said, swapping bad out and replacing it with the good. So when we talk about it at a very basic level, it's about replacing those empty foods with nutrient-rich foods. All calories are not equal. You know that. No, the calories you get from a packet of potato chips are not the same as the calories you get from a big bowl of leafy green salads or big bowl of vegetables or, activated nuts or whatever. The calories are not equal. That's why I don't think diets work. We put on 1,000-calorie diet. We don't stop to look at where the calories come from. We need to be eating more real foods, more whole foods, so our bodies can actually heal, as I said, from the inside out. We also need to be putting good fats back into our diet. I really stress the importance of good fats. We've grown up in a society where we're told fat is bad, fat is evil. I certainly, before I studied health and nutrition, I used to eat a low-fat diet, occasionally a little bit of olive oil, but I ate a low-fat diet. That low-fat diet was actually making me very sick. I actually carry a defective heart gene, and yet 20% of my diet is fat, good fat. I obviously don't have a weight problem, but I eat fat. Fat doesn't cause weight. Sugar causes weight. So putting good fats back into your body, it's actually important for your body to repair, and it's really important for your brain. If you want cognitive function, you need to be eating good fats. Macadamia oils, olive oils, avocado oils, and coconut oil. Eating foods with a low glycemic index. So you're not getting those insulin spikes throughout the day. You're having an energy level that's consistent. It's when your insulin levels are spiking all the time, that's what's setting off your diabetes. That's the trigger for diabetes. What you need to do, and this is the hard part, this requires a commitment, You need to find out what causes the inflammation in your body in the first place. As I said, I eat gluten-free. I found out gluten was my big, big evil for me. Doesn't mean it's the evil for you. Doesn't mean dairy is the evil for you. It's about finding out what works for you and eliminating it and replacing it with an alternative that is just as nice and often better. I used to love baked cheesecakes. Brownies and baked cheesecakes were always my weaknesses. And I was at a dinner party recently where someone did make a baked cheesecake, and I knew it was delicious. I'd had it before. They were like the world's best American baked cheesecake. And it was served, and I didn't even feel the slightest, oh God, I want that. Actually, politely said I was full, because it really wasn't attractive. It just didn't appeal in any way. And how powerful is that? To not feel weakened by a food, not to feel that you have to have it. Because often when we feel weakened by a food, we then feel guilty when we have it. And us women particularly, because we're always worried about things like weight and appearance, we then think, well, I had that piece of cheesecake, so tomorrow I won't eat. I'll be really, really good. And that's not good for us. If you take nothing else from tonight, please hear this message. We all need to be eating more greens. And I'm not talking about a can of processed peas. Put greens into your diet, okay? It's particularly leafy greens. They are really a miracle food. When we consume more greens, be it through eating or juicing or having smoothies, it actually causes less DNA methylation in our body, which decreases our risk of cancer. Studies have shown, you can research this and actually find this out for yourself, but the big two triggers for cancer are sugar and DNA methylation, and that's caused by diet. You know, I know I've got a lot of cancer on my father's side of the family, so it's always been a fear. I no longer fear that word because I know I eat really well and I live well. If you'd like to have a look at Dr. Neil Barnard's work and Dr. Mark Hyman, I encourage you to write down the Centre for Cancer Research. There's study after study that supports the reality that eating more greens decreases the risk of cancer, particularly cervical cancer and breast cancer. When we eat more greens, it actually lowers our estrogen levels, which is a wonderful way of inhibiting breast cancer. I love kale, and I know a few years ago when I started eating really well, kale was so hard to buy. I'd have to go to a health food store. Sometimes even Mrs. Flannery's didn't have it. It was a hard food to get. Coles has it these days. Woolies has it. Okay, it's become cheaper. It's no longer prohibitively expensive. And there are so many wonderful things you can do with kale. One of the reasons I love kale, not only does it have all these benefits, it's higher in iron than beef, than meat, very high in calcium, very high in vitamin C, very low in calories if you're worried about calories, contains virtually no oxalates. It's a really powerful green, and you can do so many things with it. You know, it's wonderful in a salad. If you just massage, you don't even need to cook it, if you just massage the leaves with a bit of olive oil, and you leave it for about 15 minutes, it softens those leaves, and it just tastes amazing. The one thing you do need to do with kale, though, is remove the stem. The stem is very bitter. It's great, it's tossed in a stir fry, great juiced. Okay, it's a really wonderful food. I often make kale chips. I make them in the dehydrator. If you haven't got a dehydrator, you can make them in the oven. Believe me, when you taste cheesy kale chips, and the recipe is on my website, you won't go back to sour cream potato chips. Easy to make and nutritious. Okay, and again, you can eat them guilt-free. And they're cheap. I think our food pyramid should look a little bit more like this. It's certainly not what is put out by the Australian Heart Foundation or by the medical profession. I think we need to be eating a lot more vegetables, a lot more greens, and a lot more coloured vegetables. Ideally, half of those vegetables should be raw. okay, whether it's through juicing or smoothies or salads. Now, I do throw in a warning there. For some people with thyroid problems, having raw food, particularly raw greens, is not always a good idea, particularly when you eat cruciferous vegetables like it's those vegetables that smell when you cook them, cauliflower and cabbage and broccoli. Lets off that sulphur. Sulphur is actually really good for us. Our body needs it, and we do need to be eating more of that. The thing we should be eating less of is animal protein. And I'm not here saying eat vegetarian or eat vegan. I don't support any one diet theory, but we should all be eating less protein. It really causes so much inflammation in our body. Sorry, less protein from an animal source. If you are eating it from an animal source, eat fish, particularly cold water fish. So the basics, and you've got a lot of this on the handout I gave you, so I won't go through it all. But I do want to talk about a few little tips that I have up here. That a lot of it, nutrition comes with food combining. When you combine certain foods, you actually allow the micronutrients and the phytochemicals in that food to develop in such a way that you're just giving your body this burst of our incredible vitality. Mushrooms and onions really go well together. I mean, they taste good. There's a reason they taste good, because they actually positively react to each other in a very good way. I'm going to explain that more in just a moment. The cruciferous vegetables, which I've mentioned before, get those into your diet. Now, don't worry about that smell in your kitchen. By the way, things like raw broccoli, they're actually really nice. Again, if you marinate them, it softens them. It makes them really palatable. I have my children eating them. I actually had a 17-year-old boy come to me today, and he was asking for some recipes and some ideas to clean up his diet. And he said, I know that I haven't been eating well, because every Friday after school he'd go with his friends and he'd have McDonald's. And he enjoyed it for the 5 minutes that he ate from McDonald's. And said, within 2 to 3 hours, I had diarrhea, I had headaches, and I'd actually feel like crap for the next 2 days. But the following Friday, I'd do the same thing, because it was the way the boys got together. And he kept doing that, and he's fortunate at 17, and I think this is wonderful that a lot of our young people are actually asking about food. He wants to change those habits. He knows it's not good for him, so he doesn't want to do it anymore, but he knows he's got to find a way of replacing those bad foods with healthy, nice choices so that he doesn't get back into those bad habits. I really encourage us to be cooking more at home, because then we know what's going into our food. I'd love to see a return to the description I gave you before about my nana. You know, that we're all in the kitchen together preparing our food. It doesn't have to be... My grandmother was always in the kitchen all day. Things were prepared slowly, and she made everything from scratch. Food doesn't have to be time-consuming, but I'd love to see more of it happening at home. We all know the benefits of water, and we all know the benefits of exercise. And I really encourage you, if you haven't spoken to Sue about exercise, I'd really encourage you to talk to her one evening, give her a call. The great thing about working with Sue is she knows your chiropractic needs, she knows your physical needs, and she can work out an exercise program based on that. The other thing I'd also encourage too is looking at lifestyle and meditation. If you haven't attended one of John's meditation classes, I'd encourage you to do so, learn about the benefits of meditation, because meditation actually turns off that oxidative stress. It actually fights those free radicals. So combined with good nutrition, it's a really powerful way to fight inflammation happening in your body. Just simple little things. You don't need drugs. I was talking about combining certain foods, and I've tried to simplify this as much as I can. We have these things happening in our body called antigen binding lectins. And what happens when you combine foods like mushrooms, mushrooms, wonderful vitamin B, okay, great food, and it's a whole food by itself. It contains so many micronutrients and phytochemicals, so it's getting into your body very, very quickly. But if you combine mushrooms with something like garlic and beans, it sets off a whole chain reaction that is just magic. It's kind of like Velcro. Now, you put Velcro and you rub against it, will stick. When you combine mushrooms, like the foods I have on the left-hand side there, it's like Velcro in your body. It actually absorbs those fat cells, so it stops your body absorbing fat, but it also absorbs those free radicals and stops them getting into your body before it does that damage. So little tips like that can actually really, really help. Adding a lot of anti-inflammatory spices and herbs into your foods like turmeric and cinnamon and ginger, wonderful tasting foods. Again, Coles and Woolies now actually sells fresh turmeric. You know, you can grate it over your food, add it into your smoothies. You get the taste sensation and you're also giving your body a treat. I don't think this is actually that far off if we don't start changing our ways. It's not that unbelievable, sadly. So I really want us to get back to the basics, get back to eating well and eating clean. I think Thomas Edison said it really well. The doctor of the future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but rather will cure and prevent disease with nutrition. And I believe that will happen. I look at the number of people here tonight. We all want to know about food. We want to know how to heal our bodies. We're no longer interested in the quick fixes, the prescriptions and the tablets and so on. We actually want to know how to take care of ourselves. So I believe this will happen. And I think a lot of our mainstream medical profession will start asking about lifestyle. They'll start asking about, well, why is your sugar level so high? What are you eating? Why do you have this autoimmune disease happening in your body? Why do you have Crohn's disease? What's going on? Rather than just writing a script. I like to think of food as medicine. Food as function. What is the functional purpose behind that food? What is it doing for my body? And when you start to understand what the food is doing for your body, you can eat it to your heart's content. You don't ever have to feel guilty about food. And I really want us to stop feeling guilty about food, especially us women. You know, I'm really concerned that we're bringing up a generation of girls that have weight concerns at a very young age. You know, we're sexualising our daughters, our children at such a young age, and they're getting body images problems. But it's also happening with boys too. It's no longer just something that's happening with girls. I like to think that if we can treat food as function and treat food as medicine, we can actually all live a vital life that's full of vitality and health. And, you know, I mean, sometimes I get out of bed and I might have only slept 2 or 3 hours because I've had a lot on, but I still feel energetic because I'm eating clean. But if I was to have a bad night's sleep for whatever reason and I wasn't eating clean, I would struggle to get through the day. If you can change the way you look at food, you can change your life. It's that simple. It's actually not hard. When I started on my journey, I saw this big brick wall. Like I said, the pasta thing was the biggest thing for me. Especially my mum's ravioli. You've tasted it, you'd know what I mean. It's amazing. But I just learned to change the way I was looking at food. And once I started to feel well and I started to enjoy good health, it actually became really easy. I'm no longer tempted by my old habits or my old decisions because I remember how I used to feel. I don't ever want to feel like that again. If you're interested in finding out a little bit more about how you can also have an amazing life filled with vitality and health, you can go to my website. There's information there about my coaching programs. The way that I do my coaching is to look at what you're eating and lifestyle. Also to look at the foods you've eaten when you were a child and growing up, because surprisingly, a lot of what we did when we were younger is causing what is happening today. I don't just look at food though. I'm very passionate about looking at lifestyle and your mindset, looking at your goals, the way you view life. Okay, what's important to you? Looking at your own spirituality. It's not about God or whatever, it's about your source, your energy, where it's coming from. Because the reality is you could have a really clean diet, you could do all the great exercise. I know I had a man living next door to me about 10 years ago. He was an athlete and he ran every day. He ate really well, didn't smoke, dropped dead of a heart attack at the age of 39. But he led a really stressful lifestyle, corporate world, and was always trying to fit in that exercise. So the balance is important. The balance is really important. If you'd like to find out more, you've got my card there. Thank you very much. Before I actually close tonight, I actually would like to ask you, do you have any questions? Hi, what's your name?
Just say a few words about that marvellous product everybody's always margarine.
Margarine?
Yeah.
Poison.
Exactly.
Poison.
Put it outside, bring it back 6 months later,
Yeah.
exactly the same.
Absolutely. You're eating a product that comes from a factory full of chemicals. I actually, many years ago, took a group of students to, I'm trying to think now which, it was one of the soap factories. I can't remember if it was Colgate or one of the soap factories. And the byproduct of the soap, we actually asked them, you know, what, because all manufacturers are into trying to minimise waste, just like me in my kitchen. That's why I like smoothies. I use the pulp. And I asked them what they did with the byproduct. And the byproduct was actually sold to margarine companies because it's what helped to make that margarine nice and smooth. But one of the number one ingredients in margarine is that carrageenan that I was talking about. Okay, that intestinal tumour creator. I eat butter. I also sometimes have ghee. My number one fat though, coconut oil. I have it in some form every single day. I add it to my smoothies, I have it in my salads, I cook with it. Sometimes I even add it to a cup of tea. If for some reason, I just love coconut oil. It's actually helped my body to heal really well. Hi.
What's about rice bran oil?
Rice bran oil?
Rice bran oil.
Rice bran oil is good. It's certainly one of the better oils. I'm not a big believer in grapeseed oil, though grapeseed oil is marketed as a healthy oil. But if you look at the way that grapeseed oil is actually manufactured, it's quite refined, and there's a lot of heating in the process of making that grapeseed oil. So when it actually molecularly goes into our body, it's creating that inflammation. Not to the same extent as margarine, but as I said, my go-to oils: coconut oil, avocado oil, macadamia oil, and what am I missing there? It's my fourth one. Olive oil, of course. Olive oil. What? I forgot that one. Hi.
About rolled oats. I know you don't eat the quick ones, but...
Rolled oats are a very good food to start the day, okay? Full of protein. I personally don't have rolled oats. Strangely enough, my comfort foods used to be porridge or a boiled egg. It's like porridge or a boiled egg. I sometimes, very occasionally, will go to the health food store and buy gluten-free oats, because often they're processed from factories that contain a lot of gluten, but they're a great way to start the day. If you have a slow cooker,
Okay, best friend in winter. Put your porridge on at night time. Put some cinnamon, some apple, a little bit of almond milk or coconut milk, and then wake up in the morning. I do this for my own kids. I don't eat it, but it's a great food, and it's just a wonderful way to start the day. It keeps them going for hours. And when my sons are home, that slow cooker's still going. They'll have porridge again for lunch because it's such a good, nutritious food. So it is a really good food. In summer, throw some nuts in. You can have it, at room temperature. Throw some almonds or walnuts or goji berries. Blueberries. There's lots of other ways of making porridge, though. I often make a chia seed porridge or a quinoa porridge. So again, it's just about thinking outside of the box and finding alternatives. You know, if you're finding that the porridge oats don't agree with you, don't rule it out. Just find another way of preparing it. There's so many options out there. We're only limited by our imagination. Hi.
What's the go with the diets that are suited to your blood type?
I have actually studied the blood type theories. I'm an O blood type, so I'm meant to be a big meat eater. Now, as I said, I've used my body as my own test case for me. I know when I eat a lot of meat, it doesn't work well with me. I eat a predominantly raw food diet. I'm about 80 to 90% raw, a bit lower in winter. It's more the 80%. that works for me. I still eat protein from animals. I do eat fish, so I'm not a vegan. I did actually try veganism for about 4 or 5 months. It didn't work for me. I could actually see it in my blood levels and so forth. Works for others. I'm not a big believer in the blood type diet, only because in my own experience it hasn't worked for me. I'm more a believer, and I said this earlier on, I don't believe there is a one hat fits all. Would never ever say to you, go raw food, be vegan, be vegetarian, be paleo. Try Weight Watchers. I'd never actually say that, ever, believe me. You've got to find out what works for you. And initially that's hard, because initially you'll have to detox. That is the hard part. And that's where you need the support. You need someone to coach you, or you need support from your family. You need to tell all your friends and your family that you're doing it too, so that they're on side and they don't try and tempt you with the wrong things. You obviously need to clean out your pantry to get rid of those things that you used to eat. And then slowly introduce foods back in. Now initially I'd say to you, the big ones to eliminate and introduce one at a time would be your gluten and your dairy. They're the two big ones. You can, of course, go to the doctor and get tested for allergens. I did. I always suspected I was gluten intolerant. I remember every time I ate pasta, I'd feel awful, but I'd still eat it because I loved it. I went to my doctor. No, not gluten intolerant. No celiacs. I went back about 10 years later. No, you definitely don't have celiacs. I actually had to have bowel surgery a few years ago because of the damage that gluten had done to my body. And when I went back to my doctor just before I had the surgery, because I was actually unwell, before I changed my whole life, when I actually went to my doctor and said, all those symptoms have gone since I gave up gluten. He rolled his eyes and he said, it's because you've convinced yourself. And I said, wow, my brain is so smart. And I actually said to him, and as I said, I'm a business economics teacher background. I like facts. So I said, I actually want more tests done this time. I actually want you to go inside my body and have a look. And they put a camera down and they discovered all the damage. Yet the blood tests, the celiac tests, all came back negative. I didn't have it. This is why I'm saying we need to listen to our bodies. We need to stop following conventional wisdom. And I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. I'm never ever going to advocate that. I still go to my doctor. You know, I'd still send my kids to the doctors if I didn't know. But I'm saying don't always trust what you're being told. Listen to your body. It is the best advice I can give you. When you eat a food, listen to how you feel. For example, about 2 weeks ago, I was out somewhere and they served sushi, and I knew they'd made it themselves. I wanted to be polite, okay, because it was being served. I knew they'd gone to a lot of trouble. They knew that I didn't eat gluten, so they tried to do the right thing. But I know rice doesn't agree with me. Okay, it's not a good food for me. Sure enough, the next day, I had the aches in my knee. My knee is always the thing that gives it away. And I listened, and I knew it was the rice. And that's why I say initially you need to eat really clean, and you slowly introduce foods back in one at a time, and you work it out actually fairly quickly. And that's why I suggest you read Cindy O'Meara's book. She's got some really practical, doable steps in there that we can all do. You don't have to have nutrition training. You don't have to go and study it. She's got really simple steps. They sell the book here. You know, I'd really encourage you to buy a copy and read it. Any other questions? Yes?
Can you tell me the name of the farm to get the...
Muriel's Farm.
Muriel.
Yeah, M-U-R-I-E-L. She doesn't advertise. It's not on a website, or I actually initially had a lot of trouble finding it.
She's got about Cotton School.
Yes.
Eat, Bake and Grow.
Oh, is that who it is?
Sorry?
On Sundays.
Okay.
Fortnight.
I didn't know that.
Seaview Drive.
That's right, Seaview Drive.
The School of Arts. Down that road.
Yeah, where the community's little community hall on the corner. If you're coming from... Yes. So if you just turn left. All the produce is fresh. Look, you'll pay a little bit more, but you won't throw anything away. You've all gone to Woolies and Coles and bought vegetables and fruit, and you've thrown away because it's gone off quickly or it tastes absolutely awful. Now, if you bought...
Sunday, is that right, that market?
I don't know about the market. I just go when I am out that way. I usually go on a Saturday, so I didn't actually know about the markets on the Sunday.
It's at the Cotton School now.
Okay.
Every fortnight. Mother's Day's the next one.
Okay.
7 till
What a
12.
great Mother's Day present.
Yeah. You're on the website. You're back on
Okay.
She's on the website, is she?
Oh, no. If
No.
They Can Grow is the market
Oh,
on
okay.
Sunday.
It's called If They Can Grow.
No. Eat
Eat,
Eat,
bake,
grow.
and grow.
and
Eat,
grow.
Bake and Grow.
Now Cotton State School.
There was another question over here.
Saturdays. What about fish like indoor heavy metal, like mercury?
Yes.
Thursday next month.
That's why I did say if you're going to eat fish, have cold water fish, particularly deep sea cold water fish, preferably from an Atlantic source. I'm very careful about the fish that I eat. I don't eat canned fish as a general rule. There is a brand that I will buy when I'm, if I know I'm going to be out and about, because a lot of the way I eat now is about being prepared so that I don't fall back into bad habits. So if I know I'm going to be out and about, I might pop a can of tuna into my handbag, and then I can always go into Woolies and buy a green salad and I can have that. So it's just about preparation. So I'll buy albacore tuna, which is a deep sea tuna, and it's also caught line free, so it's caught by the line, not in the nets. I'm very careful about my salmon sources, because a lot of salmon is farmed, contains a lot of contaminants and other things you don't really want to be eating. I'm also careful too about where I source my greens from, because a lot of greens, particularly from Asian sources, do contain a lot of pesticides and greens, heavy metals. If you can't afford to buy organic, and sometimes I can't always buy organic, sometimes I don't have time to go to Maril, sometimes I don't have time to go to the farmers markets. So sometimes I have to buy from the supermarket. And I know that it contains all that crap. So I just fill up my sink, I throw in some apple cider vinegar, I leave it for about 10 or 15 minutes, and it's fine to eat. Obviously wash it afterwards, but the apple cider vinegar breaks down all those pesticides and bad things. If you want, and that's actually one of the things I do for my smoothies, because I'm really sometimes time poor, I'll often buy a lot of greens, and the reality is I'm buying fresh and I'm often buying in big quantities. I'll prepare those greens, I'll wash them, I'll snap bag them, put them in the freezer, and I just chuck them into the blender in the morning for my smoothie. They're ready to go. Because I've snap frozen them, they're nice and fresh. So
How much apple cider would you put in there?
With your, it depends on the, like if I'm putting in a kitchen sink full, I put in about 3 caps.
Oh, well, it's not
I also, one of the recommendations, I haven't actually put it on there and I probably should have, start your day with warm water and lemon juice. And the reason for that is to actually get your stomach basically to receive the nutrients of the day. It alkalises your stomach. I know lemons are acidic, but it actually has the opposite effect when you put it into your body that way. About 20 minutes later, I'll also have a shot of apple cider vinegar and warm water. Often in winter, because I'm in a small staff room, there's no ventilation, there's no windows. Being with students all day long, colds, they're borrowing your pencil, they're sticking it in places that I don't want to know, and then they give it back to you. And you say, it's okay, you can have that as a gift. I don't get sick, I don't pick up those things, and I'm not saying it's because I'm just lucky. I think it's because I've prepared my body. Because in winter, I up the doses of apple cider vinegar. I actually keep a bottle at work, and I just have that with a bit of warm water 2 or 3 times a day. I like to have it before I eat because, again, it prepares my stomach. It gets the right balance of alkaline happening in my stomach so I can actually absorb all those nutrients. And the taste actually is quite pleasant. If you want, you can throw in some raw honey to sweeten it, but you'll eventually get used to it and you won't actually mind. Please don't have it without water though, because it's actually quite harsh on the teeth and it can destroy the enamel on your teeth. So do put some water in it. I know a lot of websites will just say have an apple cider vinegar shot, but do break it down with water because it is really harsh on the enamel of your teeth.
So you take about, what, 20 mils of it and then
Yeah.
down it, and same with the lemon juice then,
Yeah.
20 mils. Yeah.
You know, half a glass or a glass, it's really up to you.
What do you think about drinking cold water? Because I read somewhere
you know, it's actually harmful.
It is. It actually is harmful for your body. It actually sends those cells into shock. I don't. Occasionally in summer when it's really hot, I have a glass of cold water. But I have my water filter on my counter, and I have my water at room temperature. Your body prefers room temperature. You know, our blood is warm. So when you're putting those cold things into your body goes into fight mode. It's setting off those free radicals. So room temperature is better than icy cold. You know, get rid of those freezers with the ice cube makers. We really shouldn't be. Okay, unless you're having a margarita. Any other questions?
Yeah, just interested to know what sort of milk you make up.
I make almond milk or coconut milk. I have made quinoa milk. I'm still working on my quinoa milk recipe. That hasn't been as successful. I just soak my almonds overnight. Always activate your almonds because nuts, rice, seeds contain a lot of phytochemicals. So our body struggles to actually absorb the nutrients in them. But by soaking them, you actually release those phytochemicals, and your body will actually absorb all the good things in it. So I soak my almonds. I use a ratio of 3 to 1. So 1 cup of almonds, 3 cups of water, filtered water. Obviously in the morning I change the water. I get rid of the water, I rinse them again. I throw them in my blender. If you want it sweetened, throw in a date. You know, your sweet level is dependent on your taste preferences. You can then put it through a nut milk bag to get rid of the brown. I've got lazy. I don't always put it through a sieve. Sometimes I do. If I want to make crackers and things, I make up all my own crackers and biscuits. I will then put it through the sieve because I actually want all the pulp. But sometimes I just leave the skin in because I don't mind what it looks like. Coconut milk, again, is really easy. I use the same kind of ratio. Fresh coconut, the water from the coconut. And I also throw in some almonds when I'm making my coconut just for the extra calcium and protein. It does give it a slightly different taste. But it's just about experimenting. You know, when I first started making my own milk, I would throw in the dates. I no longer do that because I find it now just too sweet. Your body just gets used to differences as you adjust.
So soya milk, no good?
No. No, not in Australia. Our soya milk is so genetically modified. I'm not a big supporter of the soybean industry. I'm not saying don't eat soy. Just be very careful of where you get it from. Certainly soy in a tofu or a tempered sauce, that's okay. But you know, soybeans generally, I'm not a big advocate of it.
But on a label usually say no genetically modified, no GM.
Yeah, but have a look at the granola that I also put up before. They don't disclose a lot of it. Nobody discloses what's going on behind the scenes because if they did, if they really disguise those I mean, if you look at that cereal, that Start Smart, we don't look at that, we just look at the picture on the front. And I really encourage you to do your own investigations. You know, have a look at the labels. My big thing, and this is how I've taught my own children, if a food has more than 4 ingredients, don't buy it. If a food has numbers on it, don't buy it. If a food has a label that you can't pronounce, don't buy it. Get back to the basics. Get back to how our grandparents ate. Your body will thank you for it.
What about Wheat Bix?
Wheat Bix, now I'm just trying to remember which brand it is, whether it was Sanitarium or...
Sanitarium's provided groups.
So I don't eat cereal at all, so I'm not... I haven't eaten cereal for a long time. One of them doesn't contain added sugar. Just check the salt contents though, because a lot of those cereals do have extra salt. Wheat Bix is one of the healthiest cereals on the market, provided of course you don't have a gluten intolerance. It's certainly better than any of the cereals I've put up today. Any other questions?
Rice milk is okay?
Rice milk is okay. I don't think it's as good as almond milk or coconut milk because it does have a slightly higher glycemic index. It's also a lot blander. It's not as nice. Oat milk, if you like oats, if it does, oats I've discovered for me don't work really well, so I've minimised my oat. But again, it's about listening. Oat milk is fine. A lot of these milks are now being sold in the supermarket, but be careful because a lot of them have a lot of added sugar. So do go for the ones that are clearly labelled unsweetened. Check if they are sweetened what their sugar source is, because a lot of them have corn fructose syrup in them. So you might, again, you think you're eating healthy, you've replaced that dairy with, you know, your almond milk, but it's got so much sugar in it, or it's got corn fructose syrup. So check your labels and, you know, go and actually look at what you're buying. Thanks, John.
Thank you. All right, big round of applause, Ray.